Welcome back to the Cover 2 Zone. We are doing our power rankings early on in the off season. We're just at the end of May going into June, so still a lot of time before the season. So I think it's a nice time to do some power rankings where we might have some differences in where we've placed teams, Eden. Lots of questions still unanswered on some teams. We're post the draft now, so we've got a little bit more clarity about how teams are going to look going into the season, but there are still a lot of questions on some teams. So I think this is going to be an interesting one today. Starting at number 32, I've got the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
I think most the NFL fans around the world would put them at 32 at the moment.
Yeah, since the retirement of Derek Carr as well, has just thrust the Saints into a lot of trouble, hasn't it? They took Tyler Shock with the in the draft, and with other quarterbacks still there, it was a bit of a puzzling pick. And looks like they're going to have to go into the season with him now. Lots of cap trouble as well for the Saints. I think it's going to be a rough year for them, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, there is Spencer Rattler's supposed to be doing fairly well at the moment in training camp. And that division is not the toughest. So could come out okay. But yeah, I think 32 is fair going into the season. We might end up with pie on our face, but I think it's a pretty fair assessment.
Kellen Moore's a good coach, so let's see what he can do down there. But not too much debate on that one. Number 31, I have the Carolina Panthers.
I've got the New York Giants.
Ooh, okay. So I've got the Panthers just because, again, we know they're in a rebuild mode still. They took Ted McMillan in the first round, which I like the pick. I like the option of giving Bryce Young some weapons. There is just a lot of question marks about him. A few, he's going to be one of those players that either I think does really well or potentially flops on this team. And I just don't know where they're at with him at the moment. I do like the pick. I do like the gamble that they've taken. But the defense as well has a lot of holes still. And if you can't keep teams out from scoring, I think Bryce Young is going to find it difficult to win games still.
Yeah, I went with the Giants because they've got the hardest schedule in the NFL this year. They've got a rookie quarterback. Russ will probably start. I do think it's a solid roster all around, but considering the fact they've got the hardest schedule, it's a tough division anyway. I think they could have quite a tough run in. So yeah, I've gone with them 31.
Yeah, I'll talk about the Giants more when I have them. So at number 30, I've got the Tennessee Titans.
I've gone with the Cleveland Browns.
Ooh, see, we're differing already. Yeah, when I was looking at this as well, I could have easily put the Browns in this spot as well. I just think that the Browns have perhaps just got, with the likes of Jerry Jeudy out wide, and Jerome Ford's a good option. We don't know with the Browns who's going to be the quarterback, but in terms of the Titans, obviously got their franchise quarterback, rookie quarterback, so we don't know how he's going to play. But when we went through our AFC rankings and you looked at the data of this team, the defense actually played quite well. They played above where they finished last season. So I think if they can build on that with this defense, and if Cam Ward can come into the league and have a real impact for them, they could surprise us a little bit. But right now I'm being cautious with the Titans, and I'm just putting them down. They're still in a rebuild phase, still letting their rookie quarterback get his feet under the table in the NFL, and hopefully have a positive year anyway. Even if they don't win many games, they can take a lot of positives hopefully from this year and build.
Yeah, agree with a lot with what you say about the Titans. They're not too far away, to be honest, so I'll touch on them shortly. I've went with the Browns. Hard schedule. That division's really, really tough. The quarterback situation's a bit up in the air. The defense is solid. It is a good defense. And although he's a bit undersized, Mason Graham could come in and be dominant. He was very good in college, so we'll have to wait and see with that one. I just think until they prove otherwise, I'm not I'm not being high on the Browns, especially with that tough division and that tough schedule they've got.
Yeah, I totally agree. And at number 29, I do have the Cleveland Browns. So do you have the Tennessee Titans at 29?
No, I've got
No.
an even worse AFC South team, the Indianapolis Colts.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Do you want to talk through that one?
Yeah, it's make or break for Anthony Richardson. So they do have an easy schedule. They're in the AFC South, but I think it will be between the Titans and the Colts for the bottom dwellers of the AFC South. And I just see a world where they're a solid enough team, but I just see a world where Anthony Richardson kind of shits the bed again. We've got Daniel Jones who might come in. I don't know. It's just a feeling I have, a gut feeling that the Colts could finish bottom of the AFC South, with the Titans not too far away, to be honest.
Yeah, and I'll get to the Colts when I've got them. But circling back to the Browns, only one place ahead of you. The quarterback situation is still very unclear. They do have good weapons on defense. As you mentioned, Mason Graham could come in and, if anything, free up Myles Garrett as well to have a really good season. But as you said, we've talked about it time and time again, right? There's a losing culture in that building, and you just don't trust them to, even when there's talent on the team, even when they make good moves in the draft or make good moves in free agency, you just don't trust this organization to do things right. And we'll see what happens with this quarterback situation. Yeah, but as you said, tough division as well. Very tough division, actually. And I don't see them really improving too much this season. Moving on to number 28, I've got the New York Giants.
I've gone with the Tennessee Titans. So yeah. I think we've mixing and matching, but similar.
Yeah, so the Giants, you mentioned the hardest schedule in the NFL. It doesn't make it easy for them. Tough division that they're in as well. But I do like the offseason that the Giants have had. I do like the addition of Jackson Dart, and obviously Russell Wilson in there as well. Obviously Malik Neighbors was fantastic last season, and that defensive line that they've got, bringing in Abdul Carter along, with Dexter Lawrence, and the name is escaping me. The other guy they've got along that defensive line / linebacker role. It's still unclear where Abdul Carter is going to play as an edge rusher, a linebacker, or on the defensive line. But I really like some of the moves they made. They brought in Javon Holland as well into the secondary. So I do really think that the Giants have taken big strides in this offseason. I was critical of Brian Daboll last season. I was certainly in the camp that I thought he should have been fired at the end of last season. They've stuck with him. And so far, they've had on paper anyway, a really good offseason. But as you mentioned, that schedule is brutal for them. And it could be, they could surprise a few potentially. They could be competitive in games, but ultimately, if you do lose a lot of games, it's going to knock confidence and stuff in that locker room. So it'll be an interesting one to see where they go. So I can't really put them any higher than 28, even though I think there is talent on this team to possibly go further than that. And some people will say you've got the Titans pretty high there. What's your reasoning behind 28 for the Titans?
I think it's an easy schedule. I think they actually do have a good defense. I don't think Cam Ward's anything too special, but I think and he's a rookie quarterback, but I think they're going to be fairly competitive because of that defense. I think he'll show flashes of being a good quarterback, and I just think they won't finish last in the division because I think the Colts will potentially finish last in the division. So they're just one above the Colts. It could be, you could flip them around. I think both teams probably get like 3 wins this year, 4 wins. I just think they'll be terrible. Titans and Colts.
Okay, moving on to number 27. I've got the New England Patriots at 27.
So do I.
Yeah, this is a lot of people have got the Patriots a lot higher in their power rankings at the moment, and I see why. I see why they had a really good draft. They had a good off season. Obviously brought in Stephon Diggs into the wide receiver room, and obviously took Will Campbell, the best offensive lineman in the draft, at number 4, protecting Drake May. So I do see. And I do recognize that they have made significant improvements, but they're just, for me, they're still in a rebuild phase. And there is a bit of a lack of talent on this team for me still. In a fairly tough division, I mean, you've got the Bills and 2 teams in the Jets and the Dolphins where we probably don't really know where they're at the moment. They could be really good. They could surprise a few, or they could be terrible. Both of them, really, which we'll come on to. But yeah, I think the Patriots, they've done a lot of good things in the offseason. They've made great strides, and I think they will be a better team this season and more competitive. But I do think there is still a bit of a lack of talent on this team.
I think maybe you've got your AFC East goggles on, because I think it's quite an easy schedule. It's not. It's just the Bills, and that's it. To be honest. Yeah, no, I'm in agreement with you. I think they've done well, but they've not done enough. Stephon Diggs, I don't think is a number 1 receiver. I think Drake May still needs a number 1. I think I don't want to say he's washed, but he's not what he used to be. I think that's fair enough. So yeah, but I think 27 is a fair spot to put them. I think they're still rebuilding, and it'll be exciting to see how Drake May performs next season.
Yeah. At number 26, I've got the Las Vegas Raiders.
Wow. Okay. I've got the Carolina Panthers.
26. I'd forgotten about them, that you hadn't placed them yet.
I think Bryce Young showed promise last year. I think people have given him a hard time. I think Ted McMillan, it gives him a weapon. So him and Leggett, so he's got 2 weapons there, which is pretty solid. Their head coach, Canales, right? I do think he is a good coach, unless he got sacked. But they went into the season with Canales, who I think is a good coach. Yeah. It's a fairly easy schedule, but it's not a tough division. I don't think they're going to light the world on fire, but I don't think they're going to be one of the worst teams in the NFL.
I think 26 is high.
What, you think that's high?
I think that's very high.
It's still to be fair, that is still one of the worst teams in the NFL, just not like bottom dweller, horrendous like the Saints, Giants, and Browns.
But you're saying that there's 6 teams worse than the Panthers in the NFL?
Yeah, I think the Pats, Titans, Colts, Browns, Giants, and Saints are worse than the Panthers. I think Carolina, baby.
I've got the Raiders, and that might be a bit of a low position for where a lot of people, particularly who are excited about Ashton Genty, and not that I'm not excited about him. I just think that I look at the Raiders, and Pete Carroll's a great coach, and he's going to come in there with, obviously with Tom Brady being involved in that organization now as well. So I think that will work. And they do have some great tight end talent in Brock Bowers, some good offensive line, and obviously the likes of Max Crosby on the defense as well. So there definitely is talent. I just think that the Genty draft pick, I look at their receivers and there's not a lot of talent there. I think they're very much in danger. If Genty is good, of being a very one-dimensional offense, they're in a very tough division as well with the Chiefs, Chargers, and Broncos, 3 teams that should be looking for the playoffs this year. In those 3 teams, they're in a very tough division there, and I just don't really. I just don't really think that the Raiders can do too much. They've been inconsistent in the past. They've lost a lot of games that they should have won. In a lot of years where they've had a lot of talent, have underperformed. And a little bit like the Browns, not so much like the Browns. They're not quite as bad as a run as an organization as them, but they are, to me, a little bit like there's a bit of a losing culture in that building. And I think, Pete Carroll's going to have a tough job of getting to the aspirations I think that Raiders fans perhaps have.
I'll touch more on the Raiders. I'm not too far away, but I have them a bit higher. And
Sure.
but yeah, I think your assessment is fair. They don't have a great culture, but they have a new GM and Tom Brady as kind of part owner. So.
At number 25, I have the Indianapolis Colts. So not in the basement where you have them, but I do agree with a lot of things you said when you had them down in the basement. The quarterback situation is so strained there. Anthony Richardson, as you said, is last chance saloon really for him. He's not really proven much so far in the NFL. He needs to be able to stay on the field first and foremost. And, they took him for his flair and his running ability and all of that he can bring. I actually think he needs to settle down a little bit and just become a quarterback first, rather than trying to be a running back for them as well. Actually focus on his craft, stay in the pocket a little bit more, make some throws to his receivers, and not put himself in danger running into linebackers and safeties and stuff all the time. So it is a very tenuous position at the Colts. I do like their defense, as I mentioned, the likes of Isaiah Franklin and EJ Speed. I really like. So I think they've got a solid enough defense. It's whether that defense can hold other offenses enough for this pretty bad offense at the moment to be able to score. And again, I do think they are, similarly to the Raiders, in a lot of danger of becoming one-dimensional with Jonathan Taylor. He's a great running back. We all know that. Had a comeback year last year. But if they rely on him too much, it's going to be quite easy to stop the Colts, in my opinion.
No, yeah, that's fair. I think you're right. They do. What will win them games this year is Jonathan Taylor. I'd be surprised if Richardson lights the world on fire, but could be a Josh Allen kind of level development where he just takes a huge leap. We'll see.
So.
It would be good. It would be good to see. Not as a division rival, there. It's not great.
Sorry, who did you have at 25?
I had the Jets. Where did you? What, you've not gotten to the Jets yet, have you?
I've not gotten to the Jets, no.
Yeah, I mean, I think it varies. You could go, oh, they're going to be terrible. They could be fairly solid. Good defense, good running game, few weapons. I don't think Justin Fields is a bad quarterback either. I could see him winning games. Fairly okay schedule and fairly easy division besides the Bills. I could see him winning some games. I don't think they're going to light the NFL on fire, but I think they'll be solid.
Yeah. Number 24, I've got your Jacksonville Jaguars.
That's crazy.
Go on, who have you got 24?
I've got the Raiders. Okay. So, yeah, kind of off the back of what you were saying, I think they will be one-dimensional, but I think they've set up to be elite at that. So you bring in Pete Carroll. Well, what were the Seahawks all about? Defense and run game, right? The Raiders do have a solid defense. It's not the best, but it's solid. And they've got Ashton Genty, Brock Bowers, and their second tight end's pretty solid.
Right?
Yeah. And I could just see that two tight ends set, run the ball, Geno Smith, great in play action. I just can see them like winning some games. So, I don't think they're going to be one of the best teams, but I think they'll be pretty solid.
Yeah, that's fair. I just don't trust them really. But going on to the Jags, I do like the pickup of Travis Hunter. I do think there is, him linking up now with Brian Thomas Jr. is going to be very, very nice for Trevor Lawrence. It's just whether he can stay upright, he can stay healthy. The defense is solid as well. The Jags are one of these teams where you mentioned the division. It's not a great division. Houston are okay, and they're the best team in that division, clearly, at the moment. From last season, and from what we've gone off. So I do think they are one of these teams in my power rankings that I have and could do really, really well and surprise a lot of people. It's just, again, inconsistencies in the last couple of seasons with the Jags. But I do think they have made a lot of good moves in this offseason, and I do think there is an opportunity there for them to push higher up this list. I just giving the benefit of the doubt to the teams above them who have done it in previous years at the moment. But I do think they are one of these teams on my list that could end up, when we go through kind of power rankings, maybe at the end of the season or halfway through the season or whenever we do it, could be in a completely different spot to where they are now.
Yeah, I have the Jags a bit higher than that.
Yeah.
But fair enough.
Talk about it when we come on to it.
Yeah.
At number 23, I have the Jets.
Yeah, that's fair. I've got the Cardinals at 23, which I think is fair.
Yeah. So as you mentioned with the Jets, I think Justin Fields has a big future in this league. And the Jets have been a disaster the last few years, and that's given me great pleasure as a divisional rival. But there is talent on this team. I think Fields is a good quarterback. They've added Membu to the offensive line as well to try and bolster that offensive line a bit. Obviously, they've got the likes of Sauce Gardner as well on the defense, and then the likes of Garrett Wilson, who was disappointing last season, but I don't think that was mainly his fault, a lot of it, and Breece Hall as well. So there is a lot of talent on this team, and if Justin Fields can get a hold of that talent, and Aaron Glenn now, first year as a head coach, obviously did really, really well in Detroit with the defense. I'm sure he'll bolster that defense and give them a really solid base. Again, excuse me, going into the season as a Dolphins fan, the Jets are a team I'm really, really wary of, that could be really good and could win some games this year, or could be terrible like they are. It's one of those with the Jets, you never quite know where they're at, and that's why I can't really put them any higher than 23.
No, that's fair. I've gone with the Cardinals. I don't particularly think they've got a super tough schedule, although the NFC West is a fairly solid division. I think they did have a good draft. They're just one of those teams. Like, they're just the middle of the pack, bit worse than middle of the pack teams. I just can't see it, to be honest. I never can see it really with the Cardinals. They're just the Cardinals. So yeah, I've thrown them in at 23. They could prove me wrong, but I don't think there'll be anything special.
Okay, at 22, I have the Arizona Cardinals, so not right. Too similar, which I'll come on to in a sec. Who do you have at 22?
This I feel could come back to bite me because they could be quite good. I've got the Falcons. Okay. I actually quite like their roster. Their weakest point was edge rusher, and I think they had a very good draft getting two edge rushers.
Gave up quite a lot for it, though.
Yeah, easy division. Weapons on offense, it just comes down to quarterback play. Yeah. And I've obviously Kirk's shown it before, but last season wasn't great, and I've not seen Michael Penix light the world on fire.
Can we address the pronunciation? It's Penix, not Penix, right? you are joking when you say Penix.
Nah, man.
It's Penix.
It's Phoenix.
It's Penix. You said it on the last time, and I was like, I let it slide. But we've had some comments since that video about the pronunciation of that. I'm pretty sure it's Penix.
It's Phoenix, man.
It's Penix. Anyway. Yeah. So circling back to the Cardinals. I'm actually a lot hotter on the Cardinals than you are. I think they're building quite a nice team, and just from the eye test when I've watched them, there's a lot of players on that team that they give 100% every game. They're flying into tackles, they're flying into blocks, even when they're losing quite heavily. So there's a lot of heart on that team, which I really like. And I think that they got one of the steals of the draft in Will Johnson, the cornerback from Michigan. I think that was genuinely one of the steals of the draft, and he'll be a great corner in the NFL. So I do see them building with Kyler Murray. I do like some of their moves, and I think they could surprise people. However, that division's a little bit, we don't really know how that's going to go. We expect the Rams to be good. We don't know where the 49ers are at the moment, really. We'll come on to them in a bit. And the Seahawks with Sam Darnold there now, could be up and down as well. So that division could be a little bit up in the air. But I'm a lot higher in the Cardinals than just they're the Cardinals.
You've got them one rank ahead of me, pal.
I know.
One rank ahead of me.
I know.
What are you on about?
I'm more optimistic about them than you are. Anyway, at 21, this could be a controversial one. I've got the Chicago Bears.
That is fairly controversial. I've got your Miami Dolphins at 21.
Okay. Reason I've got the Bears, again, this is probably the one out of the list where I could get the most wrong. I could be the most wrong on and I'm quite happy to admit that. They have had a brilliant offseason, brilliant draft. They've brought in a lot of what they needed to address. Joe Tooney, and then the other offensive lineman, his name's escaping me at the moment, to bolster that line and protect Caleb Williams. They've got some great weapons at wide receiver now. They added Colston Loveland, the tight end, which I really, really like, as well as Cole Kmet. So they've done pretty much everything perfectly in the offseason that they could have. Again, I'm just looking at that division. It is brutal, that division. And I think this team just needs a little bit of time to kind of get their feet under. Caleb Williams still only in his second year there, or heading into his second year. Just needs a little bit more time to get their feet under the table. I think they will be a really good team. And outside of that division, they could get a lot of wins outside of that division. That division is brutal. And it could end up where the Bears have, a 500 season or even a positive season and still finish fourth in that division. It's pretty crazy. So again, similar to the Jags, this could be one where we're halfway through the season and the Bears are right up there challenging, and I look like an idiot. But right now, as I said earlier, I'm giving the benefit of the doubt to some more of those teams who have done it in the past and perhaps got an easier division. So I've just got them at 21 at the moment, being cautious with them, but I fully admit that they could springboard up this rankings.
Yeah, I think that's quite low for the Bears. But I do agree, the NFC North is tough. And yeah, that's just a whole nother conversation. That division is just ridiculous. Yeah, I've got your Miami Dolphins. Now, this is one where I could get wrong. That offense could absolutely light the world on fire. It's a great offense. It solely comes down to, is Tua going to play a full NFL season? And until then, I'm not ready to bet on the Dolphins. I just think Who's your backup quarterback now?
Zach Wilson or Brock, Brock Ewers, Quinn Ewers.
I mean, yeah, Tua goes down, and you're the bottom of the NFL. So, no, not the bottom, but one of the not a great team in the NFL. I just think, yeah, I could be proven wrong. I think if Tua stays healthy, you've got the offensive weapons. Defense isn't too bad. You could win some games. But you've got the Bills in front of you. I don't think you're going to finish first. You might finish second and squeeze into the playoffs if Tua stays fit. But that's kind of your ceiling, to be honest.
Yeah, I'll come on to the Dolphins in a bit. Well, it won't be too long. Soon we'll come on to them. At number 20, I've got the Dallas Cowboys.
That's so funny. I've got the Dallas Cowboys as well.
I thought I was lowballing them a little bit. Maybe
it's a tough division, man. Their schedule is okay, but it's a tough division.
And then similar to the Dolphins, Dak, if he goes down, this team just plummets, right? And even when he's healthy, Dak is inconsistent. And I think you get more consistent play out of Tua when he's healthy. They have added George Pickens, which I think is a really nice piece along with CeeDee Lamb. And we know how talented Micah Parsons is on the defense and some pieces on their defense. So there is potential here. That again, they are a talented team. It's just the Cowboys, isn't it? They always seem to disappoint. They always seem to somehow throw things away and underperform. Is it coaching? Is it culture? Is it just the players aren't that good? I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. But I can't really put them any higher than 20, to be honest.
They're not better than the Eagles, and they're not better than the Commanders. And are they going to win enough games to get in a playoff spot?
Yeah,
I have to wait and see. I personally don't see it.
Yeah, they could, but they're just one of those teams you just don't trust to get it done, right?
We could be wrong. They could perform well. They do have talent at spots, but yeah.
Moving on to number 19, I have got the Miami Dolphins. So yeah, we didn't have to wait too long.
This one, I admit that it could backfire, but I'm going to go for it. And I think the Houston Texans at 19.
Okay. Yeah, similar to you in the Dolphins, again, I think our Super Bowl window is, if it's not closed already, it's very, very, very close to closing. As you said, if Tua can't stay healthy, if he can't stay on the field all the season, we absolutely plummet as a team. Which a lot of teams do when you're starting quarterbacks out. I do like the pickup of Quinn Ewers. I think he could be good, but obviously he's a rookie, and he was taken in the 7th round, so you're not expecting too much of him. Zach Wilson, can he have a resurgence in this in this team? Possibly.
Honestly, I'd be all for that. That would be quite funny, but
possibly. But it's not looking likely. We do have weapons. We do have Tyreek Hill. We do have Jalen Waddle. We do have Devon Achane. The offense has got some really good pieces. I fear that teams are starting to figure out Mike McDaniel's offense now, that it's all about speed. And there's been reports in the offseason that he's been alienating a lot of the players there. And that's not good things to hear heading into a season where you're unsure about this team already. I'm not hearing a huge amount of positives out of Miami in this offseason. So we'll have to wait and see. And I'm just got all my fingers and toes crossed that we're good. But I think you made a great point in that we're realistically, we can't get over the hump of the Bills. We haven't been able to in previous years when we've had a better team and more more pieces together. So there's nothing that kind of makes me think we're going to do it now. And you're hoping that you can compete for a wild card spot, but realistically, you're looking, that's the ceiling, and you're a one and done playoff team at best, really, which is disappointing. But that's where we're at.
Yeah. So I have the Texans, which I think they're going to finish second in the division. I don't think they're going to be horrendous, but I think they're going to finish second in the division. They've got a tough schedule. They've got a very hard schedule. I think they've got a nice secondary, good pieces on defense. CJ Stroud's not horrendous. I think he is overrated, to be honest. This one could come back to bite me. I don't think 19th is egregious. It's not like but I don't think they win the division. And
I do.
And yeah, I have them at 19. Let's wait and see.
Okay. 18, I have got the Atlanta Falcons.
18, I have the Jacksonville Jaguars. One over the Houston Texans.
Okay.
I'll just continue. Yeah. So Jacksonville actually have an easy schedule. A few tough games, but
how can it be that much different? You're in the same division.
I think it's
you play the same divisional. Obviously your own division, but
I think it's the other teams that they throw in there. Right. I think Houston's got some tough teams, just based on kind of the strength of schedule. And I looked, it was strength of schedule based on expected wins of 2025 opponents and stuff like that. So it's not just based off last year; it's based off of looking at the team going into 2025. So yeah, I don't think either the Jags or the Texans are going to win shit tons of games. I think it will be. It's going to be Titans and Colts at the bottom of the division, and Jags and Texans battling out for the top spot. And I think we do beat them to the top spot. So I have Jacksonville one over Houston. Just speaking about Jacksonville in general, I really like what we've done in the offseason. Obviously, I've got my Jags tinted glasses on, my teal tinted glasses, but I think Liam Cohen is a fantastic offensive mind, and I think our offense will cook this year. I think we've got great weapons. Like an underrated shout out is Brenton Strange. I think he could really pop off next year. I think he's a great tight end. Obviously, Travis Hunter, BTJ, Diami Brown. Our running backs are solid. ETN, Tank Bigsby.
Terrible last year.
But the system was crap last year. I think ETN is like so let's compare it to the Bucks. ETN is like a Rashad White. Tank Bigsby is kind of like a Bucky Irving. So is Byshell Tootin. Brenton Strange is quite similar to K. Dotton, where good blocking and receiving. I don't even know if K. Dotton is that what he's but I know Brenton Strange is a great blocker, and he showed he could do the receiving work last year, so I think he could go off. BTJ is one of the best receivers in the NFL, and Travis Hunter was the best receiver in the NFL draft and is an elite player, and I think Liam Cohen is going to make it easier for Trevor Lawrence than it is last year. Last year was play action pass, throw the deep ball. His average depth of target was ridiculous compared to every other NFL quarterback. It was trying to throw the deep ball like every single time. Liam Cohen's about the screen game, making it easy. And also like Trevor's going to have not just... He's going to be able to change the play at the line of scrimmage a lot more. Like Liam gives a lot more options at the line of scrimmage, which I like. I think Trevor is a smart quarterback, does make some risky decisions, but he's just got the arm to do that. I think we could surprise a lot of teams. The one thing I will say, we've got a nice D line. I like our depth at secondary, but we've got a first time DC, first time OC, first time DC, first time head coach, and first time general manager. So that is the only question mark, but I do like the new blood in Jacksonville, and I think we could surprise a lot of people.
Okay. Yeah, I had the Falcons at 18, possibly again a low position for them. I think they could challenge the Bucs. There's a lot of good pieces, as you mentioned when you had the Falcons. I really like the offense now with Bijan Robinson, Drake London. The quarterback situation is a little bit tetchy, but Kirk Cousins is a good quarterback, an experienced guy, and if he does end up staying there, which it looks like he is now, there were lots of trade rumors in the offseason. It could just be wipe the slate clean and let's go again. They've added pieces on the defense, as you mentioned, to the edge rusher position, so they've addressed some needs there. So one of these teams again that I think we could look at having overachieved from this 18th position. But again, they had the opportunity to do that last year. It looked good for them last year and they didn't really take it. So one of these teams I'm cautious about again, just because in the past they haven't really showed too much. I still don't think they're quite over that Super Bowl loss, if I'm being honest. This is still kind of embedded in that organization. But moving on to number 17, I have the 49ers.
Wow, that's pretty low.
It is low, but
I've got a divisional opponent. I've got the Seattle Seahawks at 17. You can start.
Yeah, I mean, this is low for the 49ers, but I look at it and I'm like, Brock Purdy wasn't too great last season. Perhaps some of those, the reason he was a 7th round pick coming through, I still think he's good. I still think he's done unbelievably well.
I don't think
Mr. Irrelevant. I just think, Debo has left. I think Dre Greenlaw has left, or one of the other linebackers. Can't remember off the top of my head now. I know Fred Warner's still there and everything. And they don't get me wrong, there's still a lot of talent, but Kittle regressed last season. And I just think, similar to possibly Mike McDaniel, I just think people are starting to figure out Kyle Shanahan's system a little bit. And that's perhaps what happened last year. Yes, they did have injuries, but CMC is always going to get injured. He's had injury trouble in Carolina. He's had injury troubles now in San Francisco. It's always a possibility with him. I do think they'll be better. And I could end up with egg on my face when it comes to this season, and they could just go back into being a contender again. But at the moment, I don't see it. And I don't see 16 teams. I've got 16 teams here that I think right now are in a better place than the 49ers. So I can't put them any higher really than 17.
I don't have them that low, but it's fair enough. I've got the Seahawks. They could end up being really, really good this year, but it's just a lot of question marks. What's Cooper Kupp going to look like? What's Sam Darnold going to look like? I think they've got a new offensive coordinator as well. I think they let go of Brian Grubb. So, it's just a lot of uncertainty. They could be very good. They could be crap. So I've just stuck them at 17 just because a lot of uncertainty there, really.
Yeah, fair enough. 16. So moving into the top half, I've got the Houston Texans. So not too much higher than you. I am higher on them than you, and I do think they will win that division again. I look at the secondary of the Houston Texans, and it is one of the best secondaries, I think, in the league now. I mean, they've added CJ Gardner-Johnson, dog. You got Kamari Lassiter, who was a rookie last year, who was really, really good in the playoffs. Jalen Petrie, great player. Derek Stingley, I think, is one of the best corners, or coming to fruition as one of the best corners in the league. And then, they have lost some pieces on the offense, but you've still got Nico Collins, you've still got Tank Dell, Christian Kirk's decent, you've still got Joe Mixon, who's a very good running back, and a decent line. I mean, they underperformed last season, the line, but I think they've added pieces on there to address that. And again, I don't think they'll set the world on fire. They're probably a little bit fortunate that they're in that division and they end up in the playoffs every year potentially. But I like D'Amico Ryans as a coach. I think they are pulling in the right direction, and I think they'll be competitive again. So, but I do think there are more talented teams. That's why I have them sort of bottom of the top half of these rankings.
Yeah, fair enough. Like I said, I did acknowledge their secondary is nice, but it won't be nice when Trevor lights them up for five tutties.
Who did you have again? Sorry.
I've gone with that 16. It was actually one of the. I stuck them at 16 quite early on, and it's because I'm never doubting this man to finish below 500. I've gone with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Mike Tomlin, they will win games. They won't be one of the worst teams in the NFL. I think, unfortunately, this year, I like DK, but we don't know who their quarterback's going to be yet. Rodgers, I think, apparently. I don't even know. Is it Will Howard and Mason Rudolph? No, Mason Rudolph's on the time.
Keep talking. I'll find out. 2 seconds.
Yeah. So I think it's a hard schedule, tough division. But I'm not putting them any lower than 16 because they've got Mike Tomlin, and that's what it boils down to. You cannot bet against that man winning football games. So I think 16 is a fair spot for them.
Yeah. So far at the moment, they've got Mason Rudolph, Will Howard, and Skylar Thompson. So
that's terrible.
Not the best quarterback room.
No, that's horrendous.
Possibly the worst. Possibly right now. But
would you rather have the Saints quarterback room? At least Spencer Rattler has shown some flashes, and they got a first-round pick. He wasn't first.
We're expecting an incoming player to that quarterback room fairly soon, but right now that is awful. But yeah,
I think with Rodgers they finish middle of the pack. If not, just based off their defense, they could sneak in.
Yeah, going to number 15. I have the Pittsburgh Steelers at 15. Who do you have at 15?
I've got the Chicago Bears.
Okay. Okay. I'll go off the back before you go into the Bears. Completely agree with you. The Steelers, they and this is what I'm talking about. The other teams who I'm sort of putting a bit lower because they haven't shown it in the past. I'm doing the opposite with the Steelers, right? They probably talent-wise could be lower, but Mike Tomlin and his ability to finish above 500 every year. On top of that, we're expecting somebody to come in, a quarterback, whether that is Aaron Rodgers. Soon, it looks like it's going to be. And they rely on their defense a lot, this team, but the defense does show up every year and it does win them close games. But hard to see in that division as well, especially hard to see them really being more than a middle of the pack team at the moment. I think again they'll do their usual finish at 500 or just above, but hard to see them doing too much more, to be honest.
Yeah. You had them one spot higher than me. I think it's fair enough. Yeah, so we had a bit of a difference with Chicago. Hard schedule.
Probably our biggest difference so far, I think, if I'm doing the maths.
Well, Jags, I think, is quite different as well.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
So hard schedule, toughest division in the NFL. You'll see kind of how I have the rest of those teams lined up a bit later, but I really like what they've done in the I've seen. I acknowledge how tough that division is, but I acknowledge the talent they've acquired. But those other three teams, I think you give them the benefit of the doubt because they've recently been better. Now, I think all four teams could be very competitive. So, yeah, I've gone with the Bears at 15, and I'm just going to be repeating what you said about all those acquisitions. So, yeah, it'll be a really interesting team to pay attention to.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing that division this year. I think it's going to be fascinating how that division plays out. As you said, really, really competitive, 4 potentially really good teams in that division. So, moving on to number 14, I have the Seattle Seahawks.
I've got Tampa at 14, which might be. I think a lot of people are high on Tampa, which I completely get.
Yeah. Similar Seahawks. I think they, in the last few years, they've probably gone a little bit under the radar with how well they've done. I really like Jackson Smith and Jigba. That pick is really proving well for them at the moment, and obviously picked up Cooper Kupp in the offseason. As you mentioned, interesting to see how Sam Darnold's going to go. But I think there's not much to say about the Seahawks. I think they're just solid. They're a solid middle of the pack team. We're unlucky not to make the playoffs last season, but I think they'll kind of be in that similar kind of potentially challenging for the division, but probably more likely to finish second or even third in that division. And potentially pushing for a wild card spot if they can finish second. So not too much to say. 14, I think that's where they're at.
So the problem with having the Bucs at 14 is they're making the playoffs. But I have the Jags and Texans at 18 and 19, and they're making the playoffs. One of those two teams. Those divisions are so bad. Like the NFC South is so bad. The next best team in that division is the Falcons, and I have them at 22. So I'm acknowledging Buccaneers have an easy schedule. I think they are a talented roster. I'm high on Liam Cohen. They lost Liam Cohen, so there's a question mark of how good that offense will be next year. Liam Cohen elevated Baker Mayfield. I think I might be wrong, so it's not the Bible, but I think last year Baker had 13 more touchdowns than he's ever had before. And I think a lot of that could come down to system and all these things. But great weapons: Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Mecca Ibuka. Good
Bucky Irvin was great last year.
Bucky Irving's great. No denying, great team. Shit division. They're probably going to make the playoffs. But I rate 13 teams higher than the Buccaneers, and I don't think they're particularly bad. I rate some teams higher. That's not to say that some of these teams I have in here might not make the playoffs, because the Bucs are guaranteed a playoff spot. So keep that in mind.
Okay, moving on to number 13. This might be a controversial one as well. I have the Cincinnati Bengals.
I don't think it's that controversial, but yeah, it's pretty low. At 13, they've got the easiest schedule in the NFL. I've gone with San Fran, the 49ers.
Okay.
Just because you've kind of touched on San Fran already, I'll just wrap up kind of my thoughts with them. I'm not high on Brock Purdy. I acknowledge they've lost pieces, but they have CMC if he stays healthy. They have George Kittle, they have Brandon Ayuk, and they have Kyle Shanahan. And that O-line is always solid, and that run game is always solid. So that coupled with having the easiest schedule in the NFL, I think it's a fair assessment to put them at 13.
Yeah. And the reason I've got the Bengals again, it could be low, and they could be a Super Bowl contender once again. There's no doubt in that offense is huge firepower on that offense, and the offense is really good. The defense, however, last season was terrible, and I don't think they've really addressed some of those concerns. We talked about in the draft. Shamar Stewart was heavily criticised. That pick was heavily criticised. He may prove people wrong, and we may see improvement from that defense this year. They're going to have to improve if they want. But again, really tough division. Two teams in the Steelers and the Ravens that are really, really good teams, really solid teams, and in an AFC wildcard race, if you're not winning the division in the AFC, that wildcard race is really, really tough. A lot tougher, I think, than it is in the NFC, because you've got the likes of, if we look at the Chiefs, the Bills, the Ravens, and then the Texans or the Jaguars winning those divisions, you've then got teams like the Chargers, the Broncos, the Bengals, the Steelers, the Dolphins, potentially the Jaguars,
the Jags, yeah.
Yeah, looking all at those three spots in the wildcard race, and so
the Jags winning the division, mate. So
okay, well that's a different video. So I'm just yeah. If the Bengals can outscore opponents, then fine, but I just don't think that they will. And I think there's 12 teams that are better than them at the moment, because you need defense to be a really good team.
I don't have them that low, but I think it's fair. It's a fair statement that they rely on the big three of Burrow, Chase, and Higgins.
Yeah.
So fair enough.
Moving on to number 12, I've got the Green Bay Packers.
I've got the Denver Broncos at number 12.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, go on.
No. After you.
Yeah. I've got the Packers. I think, again, they've made a lot of good additions. I really like the pickup of Matthew Golden in the draft. Really, really solid team, solid defense, added weapons to the offense. I like Jordan Love. I like the coach in Matt LaFleur. Again, really tough division though. And I do think they will. I think they will be one of those teams challenging for a wild card spot. I don't see them winning the division, but I do think of them as a really serious wild card contender. Who, if they do get that wild card spot, could potentially upset people in the playoffs. So, I like the look of them going into this year, but I think 12th is probably where they're at.
I've got the Broncos at 12, which it was hard for me to put them any lower than that. I just think the Chiefs and the Chargers are better. But I really like the Broncos. I like Bo Nix. That defense got a whole lot better again with yeah. Very Jade Barron, I think.
JD Barron, yeah.
Really good team. Okay schedule. Not easy, not hard. I just think 12. I'm comfortable having them at 12, but I could be proven wrong.
Yeah. And at 11, I've got the Denver Broncos as well.
I've got the Chargers at 11 because I just think that.
Yeah.
Similar.
Yeah. I think the Broncos, are similar to exactly what you said. Really tough division with the Chargers and the Chiefs in there. So, but similarly to the Packers, I think they'll be obviously in a different conference, but they'll be one of those teams that are really, really competitive for a wild card spot. They did really, really well last year. Like Bo Nix, that defense, as we mentioned, is incredible. The offensive line is incredible as well. So they've got the foundations on that team for a really, really good team. They just, as we mentioned in previous videos, we worry about the receiver talent and perhaps some of the running back talent there, some of the skill positions. They could be a team that was a bit of a one-hit wonder last season, potentially. Yeah. So we may see them fall quite a lot, especially in that division. But at the moment, I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt, and I've got them at 11.
Yeah, Chargers at 11. You can flip-flop them with the Broncos for me. although hard division, both those teams have okay schedules. So, yeah, the Chargers. I like Harbaugh. I like Justin Herbert. They added Najee Harris and Hampton. Yeah, like that. Yeah, one of those teams where they should be good. And I think 11 is a fair assessment. But yeah, you could flip flop them with the Broncos.
Yeah, moving into the top 10.
Yes.
At number 10, I have got the Los Angeles Chargers. So very, very similar to you. I really like the Chargers this year. It's always been the problem with the Chargers that they have underperformed. They've had a talented team, and they've just, especially that year where they lost to the Jags in that wild card round, should have never have lost that game. But with John Harbaugh in there now, I think Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah, sorry, that's my fault.
Confused. Jim Harbaugh, sorry. Really, obviously, experienced coach, fantastic coach. And I really like Hampton, the running back, that pick up that 1-2 punch in Najee Harris. They've got some great wide receiver talent now. McConkey going into his second year. Justin Herbert's a stud. I actually think this could be and I'm not forecasting it, but if the Chiefs are going to have that year where they do regress, the Chargers are ready to pounce if the Chiefs do have that year of regression. I'm not saying they're going to, but if they do, and I think this is the time for the Chargers now to put together a deep playoff run and really make a charge. Pardon the pun. So I have them in my top 10. Really like them and really excited about this team this year.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. At 10, I've got the Bengals. I find it really difficult to put them any higher. I kind of would like to, just because of that talent. Like, they're just exciting to watch. Burrow, Chase, Higgins. Chase Brown was good last year. They always start slow. That's the thing. If they start fast, you could watch out. They could be a team to be reckoned with. So I think 10 is a fair spot to put them.
Yeah. At number 9, I've got the LA Rams.
Wow. Okay. I've got the Vikings at 9.
Okay. Yeah. I know. And I'm not saying that the Rams are not good. I think they could have a really good year. They could win that division quite comfortably. It depends on the other teams, some of the other teams in that division. And I do think they were really, really good last year. Something's holding me back about the Rams. They're solid. But yeah, I just don't think they're quite a Super Bowl contender, or are really more than maybe one win in the playoffs, potentially, depending on the opponent. I don't see them doing a deep run. I think they will be very tough to beat and solid, but yeah, I don't see them. I don't know. It's difficult to say they're good, but I don't think they're outstanding.
Yeah, I'm quite high on the Rams. I like McVay. I like that organization in terms of Les Snead and Stafford.
Oh, yeah.
We'll get onto that.
Coach. Les Snead's a great GM.
I've done the Vikings at 9, and you'll see with 8 and 7, that whole division is elite, and I think, based off recency bias, not even recency bias, based off of the fact that McCarthy is a rookie quarterback, I can't put them ahead of the Packers and the Lions because it's a rookie quarterback and there's uncertainty there. But it's a very talented team, very talented coach, and I think just super tough division. I think 9 is a fair spot to put them, considering where I've got those other teams.
Okay, cool. At 8, I've got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
At 8, I've got I've got the Detroit Lions at number 8.
Oh, here we go. It started. Okay. Before we get into that bombshell, I'll just quickly tell you about where I'm at with the Bucks. Obviously, you had them quite a bit lower. You didn't have them outside of your top 10. I've got them in the top 10 because you mentioned it. They're probably nailed on to win that division. It's not a tough division, and I think going into that, they've got a real opportunity to make a deep playoff run. They should have a good seed in the playoffs as well, because they should have some wins that are fairly routine for them. So they should have built up a good seeding in that division. Whether their schedule is tough or not, the wins count the same, right? Every win counts exactly the same, depending on never mind who it's against. So I think they've got an opportunity to have a real deep playoff run. They have lost Liam Cohen, as you mentioned, but there's a lot of talent still on this team. There's a good culture in this team. Raheem Morris has done no, not Raheem Morris. He's the Falcons.
Todd Bowles.
Todd Bowles, sorry, has done a great. Yeah.
No, the Michael Penix situation.
Yeah. Cut that.
That's funny, man. What are you on about?
Yeah, Todd Bowles has done a great job over the last few years in making Baker Mayfield into a really, really good QB with, as you mentioned, the weapons. The defense is solid. So I think a real opportunity for the Bucs to have another shot at a Super Bowl this year.
Yeah.
Let's hear your Lions take.
Before the Lions take your Bucs piece, I think I have them in here making the playoffs, and I have them at 14. I just think for me, and this is the thing where it's nuanced, power rankings is kind of nuanced. It's like I'd bet on the Niners, Broncos, Chargers, Bengals, and Vikings, and so on to beat the Buccaneers in the playoffs, which might be unfair. I think it's a toss-up with some of those teams closer to the Buccaneers, but yeah. No, I do. If the Buccaneers are really good next season, it wouldn't surprise me. It's the Liam Cohen loss.
Let's hear the Lions. Come on.
Okay. I'm procrastinating because this one could come back to bite me. But
the people want to hear your take.
They've lost their OC. They've lost their DC. They've got such a difficult schedule. Like, so difficult. Yeah. I'm not denying the talent on that roster. Jared Goff is a good quarterback. They've got 2 great running backs, good receiver room, O-line, D-line. They've got it. I'm not denying that. I just think you'll see who's at 7. I think there's a better NFC North team. And maybe not talent-wise, but just how the schedule marks up. It's hard for me to go with losing the OC and DC and the schedule. It's hard for me to go, yeah, the Lions will be great again. Like, I think 8 is fair. You've probably got them at bloody 4 or something. I just think that's, I just think the Lions, there's too much uncertainty there. And it's hard to look past that schedule. It's just such a difficult schedule.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. They have lost both coordinators, which is a big blow. And I think when we were looking in the week, they've promoted people from within to those coordinator positions, which I see as a good thing and a bad thing. Yeah. I see the good thing that being those coaches have already been in that building. They know the players, they know their capabilities, they know their strengths and weaknesses, and they are part of that culture that Dan Campbell has built. That probably one of the best cultures in the NFL. In terms of man motivation and player motivation, Dan Campbell is one of the best coaches in the NFL. There's no doubt in that. And the roster is incredibly talented. So I don't see it potentially being as much as a problem as perhaps you think, but I do acknowledge that having lost your 2 coordinators is a huge blow for the team, and it could take some time to get back to where they were potentially. But I do think, and it is an incredibly hard division. There are a lot of factors stacking up against the
They
Lions.
played against some pretty bad teams last year, my team included. They skunked us.
Yeah.
So
I get where you're coming from. I'm just giving them the benefit of the doubt. Again, as I said, so yeah, be fascinating to see where they end up. Number 7, I've got the Minnesota Vikings.
At number 7, I've got the Green Bay Packers. And so I've got Vikings 9, Lions 8, Packers 7. It could interchange all season. All hard schedules because it's all in the same division. Lions, I think, is probably a bit of a harder schedule because I think the NFL have given them more scheduled more super teams in there and stuff like that. So I've gone with the Packers ahead of the Lions. Could come back to bite me. I think those 3 interchange all year, and we'll see where they finish up at the end of the season. Tough division.
Yeah, and going back to your point on the Vikings, rookie quarterback in JJ McCarthy, I think that not Kellen Moore, Kevin McCarthy's Kevin
O'Connell.
Kevin O'Connell, and just his ability in the last few years to take any quarterback he's worked with and turn them into the best version of themselves. He's done it with Kirk Cousins. He did it with Sam Darnold last year. I have right now full faith in him to do that the same with JJ McCarthy. Yeah. And he has already got an abundance of weapons on this team. He has got a defense who is going to chase the quarterback all day. Brian Flores' defense is what my favorite to watch in the NFL. It's so aggressive. It's so pass rush heavy. It's incredible. So they're going to create turnovers. They're going to create pressure to give JJ McCarthy the ball in great spots. And I think they could win this division. If the Lions do have a little bit of a regression, as you kind of alluded to a little bit, I think they're a better team than the Packers. I think they're a better team potentially than the Lions. And I'm really excited for the Vikings this year. And yeah, but as you said, that division could flip-flop all around all season.
I mean, after hearing your piece, I might have to put the Lions at 9 and the Vikings at 8. I honestly, I think with the Packers, why I've gone with them at the top is I think it's just maybe a bit safer than the Vikings because we know, I think Jordan Love is a good quarterback. Yeah. And they drafted the receiver, terrible with names at the moment. Yes, Matthew Golden. Great head coach. But yeah, 9-8-7, and it could fall either way. It's such a tough division to predict.
Cool. Number 6, I've got 2 teams written down here, and I've just changed them in my mind. I've just swapped them over in my mind. So at number 6, I now have the Detroit Lions.
Did I convince you?
You have convinced me. Yeah. You have convinced me.
Fine, you've convinced me.
Who's your 6?
This, I almost feel a bit unfair putting them this low because how great they were last season, but I think it's fair. I've got the Commanders at 6. There's just better teams in front of them, in my opinion. I think Jane Daniels, take another step up potentially and be really good. I think it's a good team. But I want to hear more about the Lions from you.
Yeah, so I just think you made a great point of that schedule is brutal. The coordinator bits. I can see a world where they do drop off a little bit. And yeah, Jared Goff's not getting any younger. He's still fine. He's still got plenty of gas in the tank. Yeah, he's still got plenty of gas in the tank. And they'll hopefully get Aiden Hutchinson back for a full season this year, which will make a huge difference. But yeah, losing.
I didn't think about that. That's actually a big
losing
piece
that playoff game. Losing that playoff game to the Commanders. yeah, I have to give, I guess, the Commanders the leg up there really at the minute, and yeah, they're just going to be down at 6 for me again. They are a Super Bowl contender still. Don't get me wrong, and I do expect them to have a deep run. But yeah, that division, loss of coordinators, just there are some red flags there that could be red herrings, but
and by the way, we both of us have been very conservative with the Bears. You more so than me.
Yeah.
There is a world where the Bears are also super competitive, and the Lions could finish fourth. It is in the realm of possibilities, and that's not to say they're going to win 5 games or something ridiculous, but they could finish fourth and still have a solid season.
There's a very realistic prospect that all 4 teams in that division don't have a losing season.
Is that mathematically possible? Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
if they all take wins off each other and then they beat the other teams in the other divisions. Yeah,
that is the most fun division to watch this year, bar none.
Yeah, cool. Moving into the top 5. So I've gone for the Washington Commanders at 5. I've swapped them with the Detroit Lions, who I originally had at 5, and I've swapped them over.
That's fair. You had them a bit lower than me. I like the Rams. I like McVay.
In the top 5, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. Even I was like, oh, top 5 is quite high, but I like McVay. I think Stafford's just a gunslinger. I think arguably you could argue they've made an upgrade with Devontae Adams over Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp's proven to be not reliable in terms of being available.
Yeah.
So I think Puka and Devontae could be really nice to watch.
Kyron Williams is great.
Kyron Williams is a dog. McVay's a dog. That defense has pieces all around. They've proven they've performed well in the playoffs. So I don't think top 5 is a stretch for the LA Rams.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm looking at the Washington Commanders here, and like slowly but surely they have built one hell of a roster. I mean, looking at the pieces here, they brought in like Laramie Tunsil on that offensive line. They brought in Deebo Samuel, and then you go over to the defensive side. You've got the likes of Daron Payne, Bobby Wagner, Frankie Louvu, Will Harris, great safety, Marshawn Lattimore, who was good for the Saints. I mean, they've put together a really nice roster of experienced and guys who have proven that they can play in this league, as well as your superstar rookie quarterback in Jaden Daniels. Let's hope he doesn't have a regression like CJ Stroud this year, but I think I like the coaching. I'm so pleased for the Commanders that they've got to this place, because their fans deserve it. They've had years of crap ownership and an absolute parasite in the owner, and and they deserve a new stadium now, a nice new stadium to go along with their nice new team, and I think they're going to be a real force again this year.
No, that's fair. Not much more to say. Good team. I have the Rams higher than them, and then we've got the same top 4 teams. So at the hour and a half mark, how should we do it? Shall we just rattle them off?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we do need to wrap this thing up. So at 4, I've got the Baltimore Ravens. At 3, I've got the Bills. At 2, I've got the Chiefs, and at 1, I've got the Eagles.
I've got the Chiefs at 4, which. It's almost more hope than logic. I just want to see them fall off a little bit, just because it's just boring. Ravens at 3, Bills at 2, and Eagles at 1. Just a general summary of I've got the Bills at 2 because they've got an easy schedule compared to the others. I think I can't take Eagles off the top spot. They're the Super Bowl winners, great team. I'd love to put the Bills ahead of them, but I just can't. And I prefer the Ravens to the Chiefs. I think the Ravens have an easier schedule than the Chiefs. And the Chiefs, fucking jammy last year. So
Yeah, I've got the Chiefs at 2 just because they are the Chiefs and they always seem to produce, even when years and years, forever, everyone's been going, this is the year they regress, this is the year they regress, this is the year the bubble bursts, and they get it done, right? However, as we've mentioned throughout this, their division is looking really, really difficult this year. You've got 2 really good challengers in the Broncos and the Chargers, and the Raiders could be good. They could be decent. Anyway, they're not going to be as good as the Broncos or the Chargers, but they could put up a fight. And that Super Bowl performance was terrible. It was really bad. And some of those wins they got last year were really close games in which, we praised them for getting over the line in those close games, but they were far from convincing last year.
Kelsey's another year older.
Yeah. And this could be the year that they're never going to regress completely, but this could be the year that they even potentially lose that division to one of those teams in the Chargers or the Broncos. And they, in terms of those 4, the Ravens, Bills, and the Eagles and the Chiefs, they could be the 4th team out of those 2 teams. The Ravens, as I've said before, I think is probably one of the most talented teams in the NFL. Huge potential, and when they're playing well, I don't think there's anyone better than them, to be quite honest. When everyone on that team, the defense and the offense is humming, I don't think there's anyone who beats them. It's just that inconsistency that they seem to have. Same with the Bills. I mean, the Bills are excellent. Josh Allen's excellent. The defense is getting better and better every year. And as you said, that their division isn't the best at the moment, so they win that division quite easily, and then can focus on the playoffs. And they just need to get over that hump, don't they, of getting to a Super Bowl. And then Eagles, defending champions. What else can you say? They're excellent. So really, really interested to see how it's going to go this year. But thanks very much for joining us, and we'll see you again in the next one.